In this video, I'm going to show you the Florida home buying nightmare nobody talks about. Countless people lose their homes to this every single year. And when this video is done, you're not going to have to worry about it ever again. Let's jump in.
Her property taxes climbed well above 100%, and now she's been priced out of her home.
Guys, this is something that does not need to happen. And I'm going to go over exactly what's going on here, why this happened to her, and how you can protect yourself.
The perils of property taxes taking a toll on Tamara Ransom. She bought her Winter Haven home last May, but less than a year later, it's on the market after receiving an unwelcome surprise.
I felt like I'd been baited and switched. When you buy a house, I see the taxes at $2,700. I expect it'll vary a little bit, you know, a few hundred, $1,000, but in no way did I expect it would go up 174%.
Now, I understand she says she feels like she was baited and switched, but she really wasn't. This is the way property taxes work. The problem is she hired the wrong realtor. Now, I'm not a realtor in Florida, but I was in Michigan for almost 10 years, and this is something I would go over all the time with my clients. And anytime I hear somebody say,
"Oh, I'm gonna hire my nephew's neighbor's brother's kid to be my realtor because they just got in the business and they need the work,"
I cringe. This is more than likely the biggest investment you're ever gonna make. And you're hiring somebody that knows this much more than you? Now, I'm sure her realtor didn't know this was gonna happen, or they would have explained it to her. But I still blame the realtor for putting her in this situation. Now, this isn't a video about picking the best realtor. It's about getting yourself the correct information so you don't have to rely on these other people. And here's a fun fact. Do you know it takes a year to learn how to cut hair in the state of Florida? And it only takes 63 hours of online schooling and passing a test to be a realtor?
Many new homeowners face this sticker shock when they received their trim notices with their new assessed home value. Those bills were due at the end of March. You have been doing what you can to try to make this work.
It's very upsetting because I put most of my savings into the house, the down payment and the things, you know, alarm systems and things like that. And I'm losing all of that because I have to sell the house and I'm not going to get really anything back. And then I have to look for a new house.
She's absolutely right. When you buy a house, normally you're putting just about everything you got into it, and then you have to furnish the house, buy a washer and dryer, stuff like that. So you're not left with a lot. And then all of a sudden, this new tax bill rolls around. I don't blame her for being shocked. And she's actually got to live through this nightmare, and that's why she has to sell this home. The reason being, she bought this home based off the previous year's property taxes, not off the future year's property taxes. And I'm going to explain more about this in a second so this doesn't happen to you. Now, I used to live in Michigan, and as a real estate investor, I was told assessing a property too high by the city is not a crime. It's up to me to fight that and get that assessment back down to where it's supposed to be. I think that's ridiculous and should be against the law.
Buyers should consider reaching out to their property tax assessor to find out what that tax bill would be.
So rule number one when you're trying to buy a new home in Florida is don't use the previous year's tax bill. So you can see this on the MLS or on Zillow. They're going to show you what the old owner paid in taxes. That is a snapshot into the past. That's all that is. It does not show you what's going to happen in the future. So that's how a lot of people get in trouble. They look at their finances. They look at that old number on Zillow and say, oh yeah, $3,000 in taxes. I can afford that. That's what happened to this woman. And then when she bought the home a year later, property taxes uncap and she's reassessed at the new price she purchased. And that's why her taxes double. So let me show you a much easier example of this. I just sold a home in Michigan and bought a new home in Florida. Let's look at the property taxes, what I was paying previously. I'll go over all those numbers and now what the new owner has to pay in property taxes. And I think you're gonna be shocked. So I bought this house in 1998 for $130,000. So what happens when I buy the home, the property taxes are gonna uncap and they're gonna catch up in value to the current market. and then they will recap again. And the good thing about that is, now that they're capped, they can only go up incrementally every year. They can't make that big jump like they did the year after I purchased a home. Now, when you purchase a home in, let's say, October, the property taxes are going to uncap in January. You're going to get reassessed, and that's when that big jump's going to happen, and then it'll cap again. That's how a lot of people are caught off guard and end up with property taxes doubling, because they're just not aware that this happens. Taking a look at this picture, you can see over the last few years, starting in 2020, property taxes were around $3,800, $3,900, and they went up incrementally. They just went up a little bit from 20 to 21, 21 to 22, and then 22 to 23. Not a lot of raising in the property taxes. That's because I owned it and they were capped. They didn't go up. However, we sold the property in March of 2023, and the new owner got to pay the old property tax fees all throughout the year until January of 2024, and that's when it uncapped and got reassessed. So you can see here, if you look at these two bills, the summers already come out for 2024, and they had to pay $5,232. Now, if you add in the winter of last year, which hasn't been reassessed, but it'll give us a good base idea, the new taxes went up to over $2,400 a year. Now, if they weren't prepared for that and they can't afford this new property tax, they're in big trouble, and they might be just like this woman in the video and have to sell this property. Now, what if you have an escrow account? You might think, oh, I'm good. The bank handles all that money for me, right? I just pay a fee and they take care of all the rest. Wrong, and you couldn't be further from the truth. This is where it really gets scary. If the old taxes were $3,600 a year or $300 a month, and that's what you were making your purchase on, not knowing these taxes were gonna go up, and let's say they doubled like they did in the video and the taxes went up to $7,200 a year or $600 a month, that's a $3,600 deficiency or shortfall in your escrow balance. So the bank's gonna go, hey, bro, you owe us $3,600. But it gets worse. Your payment's gonna go up by $600 a month because they have to cover the $3,600 that's short this year right now, because the bank's making that payment on your behalf and you have to reimburse them. And they also have to plan for next year where you're gonna be short again, another $3,600. That's where that $7,200 comes into play. And that extra $600 a month can crush a lot of people that didn't know that this is how taxes work. Now, when you move into your new home, you could be talking to your neighbors and tell them, hey, my property taxes are $7,200 a year. And they might say, well, that's crazy. Ours are only $3,600. That's because they've probably lived in the property for 30 years or more, and their taxes have been capped for 30 years, and they just move up incrementally. Yours uncapped and readjusted to the $7,200. Now yours are going to be capped again, and yours are just going to move up incrementally as well. Now, I live in Pinellas County, which is St. Petersburg, Florida. And if you're looking at buying houses in this area, a good way to think about property taxes is look at the purchase price or asking price, and your new taxes are going to be anywhere from 1.5% to 2% of the purchase price of the home. So if you're looking at buying a home for $700,000, you can guesstimate that the property taxes are probably going to be around $10,500 on the low end and $14,000 on the high end. But Pinellas County and Florida make it so much more easier. They'll show you exactly how much your taxes are going to be. And let me show you this website. So this is the Pinellas County Property Appraiser website, and you can get all kinds of information on this site. But if you look on the left side, you'll see Tax Estimator, and that's the one you want to click on. It brings you over here to this disclaimer. Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the hell it says. So step one, we're going to enter the address of the property. I'll put mine in there. Step two, we're going to enter the purchase price, $440,000. Step three, I'm not transferring a homestead exemption benefit or portability because I don't own a home in Florida. We used to own in Michigan. So I'm gonna say no here. And what the portability is, it's a cool thing in Florida. If you do own a home, you can bring some of that tax savings with that home into your next purchase. Now, it's a lot more involved and it gets very boring, so I'm not going to talk about that here, but I just want you to be aware of it. Step 4, will the property have homestead exemption? Yes, I'm going to live there, so I get a tax break for living there, or a homestead exemption. We're going to click finish, and this will bring us a new estimate for our property taxes. If you scroll down here, total estimated ad valorem taxes, $6,583. Now I know when I'm purchasing this home, that's what I'm going to have to pay in taxes. And that's what I'm going to run my numbers on. Can I afford this house? Now I have a better understanding if I can or can't. But let's look at what the previous owner paid in taxes so we can compare the two. Not that it matters because we're not going to be paying the old owner's taxes, but it's good to see how much these taxes can jump. Now, looking at what the old owner used to pay, you can see in 2021, they paid $2,038.86, and they went up incrementally in 2022 by just a little bit because they're capped, so they can't make that big jump. 2023, they paid $2,368.30. Now, I just told you mine were going up to $6,583, so that's a big jump, and you better be prepared for it. So in Florida, you get your property tax bill once a year on November 1st, and you have a few months to pay it, and it's late on April 1st. The cool thing in Florida they do is they'll give you a tax break for paying it early. If you pay it in November, you get so much of a percentage off. Same thing in December, February, and then you're paying in full. This is a great idea for the state because it gets their money in their hands a lot quicker by encouraging people to pay early. This is also a great incentive for citizens to pay their taxes early and to get that money in. Now, this system's very open, honest, and it's really easy to see what your property taxes are going to be. That's what I love about it. Unlike Michigan, and as a real estate investor, this always drove me nuts because we have to know if the deal's going to be good or not. So I have to know what the property taxes are going to do in the following year. And in Michigan, property taxes aren't based off the sale price of the home. They're based off the sales price of similar homes in the whole neighborhood. So the city can take a guess at what taxes are going to do, but they really have no idea. They have to wait for January to come around so they can assess what happened in the whole neighborhood, and then they can reassess your property. This becomes very tricky for not only real estate investors like me, but for homeowners, because you really have no idea what you're getting into. That's where in Michigan, a really good realtor comes into play because they can give you the best and worst case scenarios. Another nice thing Florida does in regards to property taxes is they give combat veterans tax exemptions so they don't have to pay property taxes. And if a disabled combat veteran passes away and their spouse owns the home, they won't have to pay property taxes either. I love this law. I feel there's not enough given to veterans for what they put on the line for us every day. And I love seeing programs like this. Florida also offers tax exemptions to people with certain disabilities and for people that make less than $36,614 a year. Now, this is not an exemption you want to shoot for, but it's nice knowing that they're thinking about people that don't make enough income. Now, you need to look up all the details and all the specifics yourself and see how they pertain to you. I don't want to bore you with details in this video. I just want to let you know they're out there, and I want to prevent you from getting screwed when you buy your new home in Florida. Thanks for watching.